Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's going on, brother?
Doing very well. Slight technical issue. We were hoping to go live in the community, weren't we, to share? But anyway, we'll be able to dive in here and then post the video up. And you guys in the community that are watching this in the replay, feel free to post any questions, comments below. And Doug and I will loop back around and make sure they get answered for you as well. So Doug, Mr. Holt, master of disaster. What I wanted to cover. So I put out a question in the community, as I like to do. But this question was about how practical do you think it is to put your needs before your wife's, your kids, and your business? Guys, how practical do you think it is to put your needs first? That's it. How practical do you think it is to put your needs first when you have a wife, kids, and a business? And what are you laughing at?
Just the Zoom and Facebook aren't the only technical difficulties apparently we're having today.
Yeah, that was very true. So this brought out a lot of a mixed response within the group, both from the coaches who commented, some of the men as well, a lot of the men. So I thought it'd be a great one for us to discuss because I think this is a really important issue and something that a lot of guys get wrong, and it costs them dearly because they can end up becoming Mr. Nice Guy in the relationship, which is the last thing the wife wants, quite honestly. And it can drive her further apart. And then the guys can get confused because they think they're doing all the right things. You know the drill and where it leads to from there. So I want to dive into how to put your needs first without annoying your wife and why you must do it if you want her to look at you with love and admiration.
Yeah, so Tim, you asked the first question. You said, is it practical?
How practical is it?
It's very practical. I live it. So I can tell you it's practical. A lot of the guys, Arthur, who's married with, it's one of our coaches, also does it. And a lot of the guys that are in the Brotherhood and guys that have been through our programs live this. And other guys that I know that haven't been through the program, they just, some way, somehow, they figured it out along their own journey. They've had their own mentors or a great father that taught them along the way as a role model, but it's really rare. That's really rare. So I would say it's extremely practical. It just takes a shift in mindset, a paradigm shift, as well as some skill sets to do it gracefully, I would say. Because I think when most guys go on this journey, Tim, they approach this and they get, okay, all right, I'm going to take back the power, so to speak. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to live for me now. I've just been putting, once they realize they've been putting everybody's needs first, I'm going to do this. And they become an asshole, right? Honestly, they become a complete jerk when they think that's what you need to do. And that's exactly the opposite. So the way to do this, guys, and the way to do it well is actually doing this from a place of complete love, right? First and foremost, love for yourself, right? You can't love it. You've heard this before. It's an old axiom, but it's true. You can't love anybody else fully until you love yourself first, right? Mm-hmm. Someone who's shallow and empty doesn't have the capacity of depth to love somebody completely. So it all starts with really loving and taking care of yourself first, right? And that is true love for your wife and for your kids because you show up, and I'll go over how to do this, right? And we'll go over how to do this in a little bit, and I'll tell you how to do it. But what it looks like is you showing up as a whole and complete man, a real solid man for your wife and for your kids. And that's what they're really looking for. A solid man, a man that your daughter wants to marry, right? A man that she can go, okay, that's the role model of what a real man should be and what I'm going to look for. A role model of who your son aspires to be, being your son's superhero that he looks up to and the man that he wants to become. And being the man that your wife admires, adores, loves, right? Because he's full. And when you fill yourself up first, Tim, and you fill your cup, right? Who you are, and I say fill your cup, it's just the visual analogy of filling a cup. But when you fill a cup and you overflow it, you allow yourself to spill into those others when they're thirsty, when they're going through hard times, when they have doubts about life. And we're in the midst of a pandemic right now. And so that rings really true. So the guys we're seeing as leaders who are doing this have been doing this for a while. They are reaping the benefits. It's like investing in the stock market, right? They're reaping the rewards ahead of time because people are coming and going, oh my gosh, I'm panicked. But these guys are filling their own cups, so they're more secure, they're more stable, and they're able to feed those around them by spilling into. Now, the contrast of this is what most men do, right? The contrast of this, and I was guilty of this certainly, is you're kind of become the nice guy. Oh, I'll help you out. Oh, I'll do that. An example, my wife and I both woke up really tired today. We have kids, we have a 3-month-old, so sleep is, something we hear about. My wife she was exhausted, and so was I. And so typically, Tim, what I would have done in the past is I would have foregone everything about me and told her, hey, you go back to bed, you go to sleep. I'll do the dishes, get the breakfast, get the kids ready, do all that. Then I'll go to work, which my work is getting on a podcast with you, which is so difficult. And then I would have gone in and said, okay, yeah, look, I'll give you a massage. I'll do all these things for you, burnt myself out, probably gotten sick. And then she would have been okay. And then when she was feeling better, I wouldn't have been around and available to her. So for today, as an example, she woke up, she was tired, I was tired. I was able to look at her and go, wow, that really sucks. Like, I can imagine being tired and watching the kids while I'm doing a podcast with Tim would be worrisome. I made some extra coffee for you. If you'd like some, it's over there for you. And I went about my day, right? Nothing wrong with that. I give her a kiss and a pat on the butt and all that good stuff. But I went in filling my cup instead. And now when we got this podcast and my wife's feeling well, and I'll help her out for sure. Don't get me wrong. This is not about me being a jerk, but I'll be able to come back full and complete as a man and be there to support her. And when she's energized, she's going to want to play and I'm going to be there. And that's a totally different scenario, right? It's a totally different scenario than most of the men live in.
Yeah, you mentioned, I found it really interesting then when you said, I've not been a jerk. And I think that's what a lot of guys think. They get this guilt that comes over them when they want to take care of their needs. And then as a result, the guilt then causes them to sacrifice their needs. And when I say needs, really what I'm talking about is looking after themselves, right? Making sure they can continue to work out and they're eating well and, they're just looking after themselves. It doesn't necessarily mean, doesn't mean that they take off and go watch a movie in the cinema or something, but, some guys do date themselves and even do that if that's what fills their cup, right? And I think the second interesting belief, I'd say as well, is that I think that a lot of guys, and I used to think this, a lot of guys think that the way to provide, first and foremost, the way that they can showcase their presence is through the amount of money they bring home, right? We've got this cash in the bank, we've got the paycheck, we've got the roof over their head. Oof, right, I've killed myself in the process. I have nothing left to give myself, never mind you and the kids and the house and anything in my health, but we've got the money in the bank. And, usually for the most part, the wives don't often care a great deal about that, right? They care a lot more about being with a guy that they can trust. When I say trust emotionally, right? They know that guy can handle himself, right? And by default, in order for you to, look and appear as though you can handle yourself, you've got to have energy, you've got to have presence, you've got to have life, right? Flowing through you. So I think, I get it. It's been tough for men because society, the story we've been fed over the past few decades, probably for the entire previous century, really, has been that the way that you provide as a man is you go out to work, you work hard, you come home, the woman does everything in the house. You don't even go there. You just put your feet up with a beer and you try and refill your cup that way because you're going to go again tomorrow, and you do that every day and keep going and keep going and keep going. And it's just false. It's definitely false in today's world. It may have worked, a generation or two ago. That it may have worked then, but the world has changed. The world has changed a lot, and I think part of the problem is a lot of guys are still going about life with the playbook that they used in the 50s, 60s, 70s. But we're in 2020. You've got to update the playbook because women have risen, haven't they? Women are very different today than they were 50, 60, 70 years ago in a lot of respects. And they require something different from their men today. And so it's not enough to just go out and leave it all on the battlefield of business and come home depleted with nothing left to give. It's just not going to meet the needs anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't say women are different. I would say the opportunities that are presented to women are different, right? Women have more opportunities to go out and provide for themselves financially than they had in the past. In the past, when you looked at it, it was the man's role to provide financially, and because the woman wasn't presented those opportunities, she was looked as lesser than. Those times have changed, right? I think the needs that women have are still extremely similar, if not the same as they were back then. Same thing with men, by the way, the primal needs and the things that we want. And what occurred, maybe it's not for you, but for me, what occurred to this was a feeling of guilt and shame early on, right? I felt guilty if I did something for myself, right? I felt guilty about my love language is acts of service too. So when somebody's hurting, whether it be you or my wife, I want to do stuff for her, right? I want to go, okay, I'll help you out. I will take the burden because I am so strong, which ergo you're weak, right? But I am so strong, I will take the burden and I will carry this burden for our family, which leaves us broken. And you feel guilty when you do stuff for yourself. You talked about going to the cinema by yourself, but maybe it's your morning routine. Like for me, I handed, we have 2 baby monitors, right? I know you don't know anything about this, but we have 2 baby monitors to watch the kids as they're sleeping. I just simply hand the baby monitor over and I go for a run, right? But I come back so much more fulfilled. And by the way, I have my wife's back. So it's not like I'm not doing anything for her at all. There's no doubt about that. When she needs me, I'm stepped up, I'm there. But I'm also not doing it as a sacrifice for myself. And that's a big difference, right? Is that sacrifice. You still want to do things for your spouse. When my wife wants to work out, I take the kids, we go play, right? And I have that availability in my schedule because I fill my cup first and I chose it. Now, the other thing that comes up is a feeling of guilt, right? Shame. And the shame typically, Tim, in my experience, comes from the judgment, right? The comparison. I should be an amazing father. I should be an amazing husband. I should be bringing in $1 million a month or whatever your number is, right? I should be in my foot with a 6-pack, right? I should have a 6-pack. All of these things lead to shame because when you're comparing yourself to an ideal version of yourself, there's a gap there. And what does this have to do with, putting your needs first without pissing your wife off? Well, it's the energetic feeling that comes without that. So when you're in a state of shame, for most of us men, that transmutes into anger. Early on in childhood, we learned that we can take shame and guilt, but shame especially, and transmute that into anger. Anger at ourselves, right? We're pissed because we don't have a 6-pack. We're not the ideal father or whatever it may be, husband. We're not knocking it out of the park every single night, twice. Or all these things we think we should be doing, then we get mad at ourselves because we're judging ourselves, and that transmutes into our wives. We'll get angry with them. And sometimes we try to make up for that anger, Tim, by doing more around the house, by trying to be the good boy like you did to your mom, right? Oh, my mom's mad at me or my dad's mad at me. I'm going to pick up my clothes. I'm going to clean the room. I'm going to clean the dishes, clean the house. Your wife doesn't want that. She wants a full and complete man. That's a very different story. Now, again, guys, this doesn't mean you get a license to be a jerk. This doesn't mean you don't help out around the house, right? I help around the house all the time. I hate a dirty house. So with kids, I'll vacuum. I actually enjoy vacuuming. I'm one of those weird people, but I like cleaning and making sure the place is clean. The difference is I'm filling my cup. I'm putting my needs first, which reminds me, and again, we'll get into the topics of something that I read. When you talk about someone who says you're selfish, you're just being selfish. What they're really saying is you're doing what you want to do instead of doing what I want you to do. So therefore, you're selfish. You're not doing what I'm telling you to do. You're not listening to my every need. So therefore, you're selfish, which is truly the most selfish comment you can actually make to somebody. So the idea of being selfish and filling your cup allows you to provide for your family at a much bigger ratio, right? I can guarantee any of you guys listening to this, if you have started working out recently or in the past when you started working out, your wife started paying more attention. She just did, right? Because you're taking care of yourself. That's sexy. If you can't take care of yourself, how the heck can you take care of her? That's what she's thinking. And you start taking care of yourself, now you have the ability to actually help her out, right? Now you do. She's not looking for a dog or someone to order around. She's looking for a man, someone to take charge, lead, but lead with love, not lead as an asshole.
I think this is where a lot of resentment builds as well, when the sacrifice comes in, right?
Yep.
Because then when you're sacrificing yourself, typically what will happen is you'll want to create a similar scenario for the other person. And you can get into this game where you're both kind of almost like a power struggle in some respects, just resenting one another as well.
Well, it leads to what they call horse trading, right?
Yeah.
So
keeping score,
right? I took care of the kids yesterday, so you have to do it today. Or I did the dishes yesterday, so you owe me.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, I get it. I've been in that place before with Amelia.
Yeah, we all have.
I've also been in that place where my cup's just been overflowing, and I want to do things for her, right? And she, of course, it doesn't always please Amelia necessarily. When she used to call me selfish all the time. I used to say thank you. They didn't get a great response from her, but
can't imagine.
But I also had the wherewithal to really, or at least speak with you or speak with people close to me in the early days and understand what was really going on too, right? Because sometimes she's testing. Sometimes I am just being selfish and I'm not being fair. And other times I'm not, and I'm just looking after myself. So, being able to delineate between what's going on as well, I think is key. I think it's a point that we should probably dive into a little bit, Doug, when we're talking about how to put the needs first. So let's dive into that, in fact. Let's dive into how to start putting your needs first. I know we spoke a little bit about morning routines and whatnot, but how would you suggest that these guys can go about it?
Well, I'm going to add in there. I'm not going to segment them, right? So I'm going to talk about how to put your needs first without pissing your wife off, because I think they go tangentially, if I'm saying that right.
Never heard of that word.
I make up words a lot, as you know.
Just like you said, we've got a 3-year, what do you say, a 3-month-year-old?
Do I? Probably. Man, I didn't sleep last night at all.
But a 3-month-year-old.
That's what dads say. Come on, Tim, get with it. So you got me off track here. So what do you do? Well, one thing that I do in my morning routine is, or I used to do, I don't do it anymore, but I'll come back to it, is creating what's called a desired list, right? What do you desire, right? And so for a lot of guys, this is a good first step, especially those guys that are used to providing. I always used to brag to him that I could just take on a lot more than most men. I can do more. Give me the ball, I'll run with it. Give me your problems, I'll do it, right? And a lot of guys can relate to this. And so one of the things I did was stop putting my desire. I didn't even know what my desires were, right? What do I want to do? Like, it's almost like a fun list. Like, what do you desire? What is it you desire? 5 things every day. First thing in the morning, what do you desire to do today? And it was a really interesting practice for me because it was really hard at the beginning to come up with more than 2 or 3. Really tough. Now, you got the blown out ones, right? Those are easy. But really it comes down to nuts and bolts. What do you want from today? What do you desire today that's going to make you feel good? Something you want to do, fun, right? How many of you guys have don't even know what the heck fun is anymore, right? So that list is a great starting point to know where to point. It also gives you an idea, right, in a practical way of where you are. Right? I was shocked that I couldn't come up with 5 on a regular basis. And it really let me know how far, this is years ago, how far I'd put my needs in the background because I couldn't even identify them, right? My true desires, right? I mean, I had needs with work and dominating here or sport. That's not a problem. But what are the other things you want to do? So that's one thing the guys can do right away. And I think this also comes with sharing this, right? If you're at a place with your partner where you guys are, doing well, right? Doing well, I mean, you're connected, and doing it. Share this desire list, and probably even more importantly, if you have problems with your desire list, problems might not be the right word, but if it's hard to come up with them, share them with your partner and say, "Geez, I was putting together a desire list, like what I really want, and I noticed that it's hard for me to come up with them." And chances are your wife's been adding her desires to your list for months, years, if not decades, right? And it's not her fault. I mean, shoot, she should be in that case because you haven't taken the realm. And it's probably been great. It's probably been great in that sense. So that's one thing that guys can do right now in doing it. And the second thing is, along with that, without pissing your wife off, is communicating it. And so you added on a few other items like the morning routine. Your morning routine, own your morning. Now, it doesn't mean you don't have to do the alpha rise and shine, although obviously we recommend it. Tim and I have been through, collectively, probably 50 morning routine programs or mentors or coaches, and we put together the alpha rise and shine. It's kind of the best of all of them. It's an easy way of doing it, but it sets your day for success, right? So why? How do you do that without pissing your wife off? You got to explain to her why you're doing it, right? And what it means to her. So this is like persuasion 101. Right. And so the way that you might go about this in a formulaic state is you might say, honey, I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to be doing the alpha rise and shine. And because I'm committed to being a better husband and a better father. And this is extremely important to me to take care of myself first so I can show up in a better way for you and a better way for the kids, because all of us deserve that. What woman's going to counter that? She might try to shit test you a few times, but she's going to be like, holy shit, who is this man? Oh my gosh, this is the man I married. This is the guy I saw you could become. This is the man I've been waiting for. This is just one step, guys. One small step that we teach over and over again that can pay you dividends. The best part is you're going to feel better. You're going to be on top of your game. You're going to go into your business meetings and crush it. You're going to go into the bedroom and crush it. You filling yourself up allows you to spill over into others.
Yeah, and for so long, what many of the guys do, they try and pour themselves into everybody else's cup, right? They go into business, they pour so much of their cup into business, come home, they have a little bit left, they pour the last little bit onto the kids or the wife, but then they never fill it up again. And then they continue trying to, doesn't count, not whiskey. And then they continue to try and pour more into business, but it's empty, right? And that's where they get burnt out and frustrated and angry, and it's just not a place to operate from at any level, right? So the idea, guys, is to get to a point whereby you start to fill your cup so the overflow starts to spill into everybody else. So then they are literally getting the best of you, right? You're getting the best of you, and then they're getting the best of you too, be it your staff, be it your wife, be it your kids, be it whoever, right? But I think, like you said, the morning routine is such a key one, because the thing with this as well, guys, once you start to tune into your desire list and you start to do your morning routine, it starts to build. It starts to compound, right? You start to realize what your desires actually are just by default from opening the door to the question and trying things, right? You start to add to your morning routine and it starts to build. It might start at 10 minutes one day, and then it starts to build to 15 minutes because you realize how great you're feeling and how much better you are at home, and it may build to half an hour, and you may find creative ways to Take care of the kids so you can make sure you get your hour in. Whatever. Just start small, but start with the morning. It's absolutely key. And like you said, Doug, explaining it to your wife in that way is brilliant.
Yeah. And you don't have to, guys. I know a lot of you are like, yeah, sure, my wife's different. She's not, right? She might be different in some ways, but women love mystery and intrigue. And you start changing and shifting, the first thing that's going to come to her mind is resistance. But the second thing that's coming to mind is, who's the other woman? Why have all of a sudden this guy, I had this guy whipped, and why all of a sudden is he, getting better in shape? Why is he watching his diet? And she'll probably consciously or subconsciously try to sabotage you many times. When she does that, look at her like a 5-year-old little girl that she is, right? Internal little child, and just give her a hug. God, I love you. I'm going to go work out. And then just walk away. Like, simple as that. And when you have that resilience, she is going to respect you a lot more. She's going to love and admire you. And I'm not going to lie, for most of you guys, it's going to take some work. You've been having a similar pattern of who you are, right, for years, if not decades. It's just like, Tim, when you go back to, friends that you had when you were 16, 17, right? And you haven't seen them in years. And you guys get back together. What happens? Almost instantly, you revert back into the roles that you had when you were 16 and 17. You joke around, you tell the same jokes, the same stories, but whoever was the hierarchy that you had back then stays the same in that relationship. It's weird. It's just so easy. It's like we never left. Well, you never left because you have a vision or a role of who that person is, and they fall into it. Your wife has a vision and role of you being the guy who puts himself last, who sacrifices. So when you start doing it for yourself first, it's going to take some repetition for her to get it and to understand. And the key is to do it without pissing her off, is reminding her of why you're doing it, why it's important to you.
It reminds me of one of the guys that joined the program. He joined the program at the point where his wife had kicked him out. He wanted to be with her. He had 3 businesses. He'd spent the previous 20 years constantly hustling in business. It'd never been enough for him, taking him away from his wife and his kids. And anyway, he realized that, look, I must change. I've got to break this cycle so I can be happy finally. And, hopefully I'll get my wife back, but, who knows? Anyway, by the time he arrived at the Alpha Reset, 3 weeks prior or 4 weeks prior, his wife had invited him to move back in. And she'd invited him to move back in because she heard somehow, he didn't tell her, but she heard somehow that he was breaking up his work day to make the group coaching calls. And I think he's a pediatrician or gynecologist, something in that kind of field. So he had to shut surgery down for like an hour and a half. And he closed it down twice a week to work on himself. His wife couldn't see this because he wasn't going home to her. They weren't speaking. But when she heard this, she was like, what's going on? This is weird, because he's making a change without her needing to know, and also doing it in the area that she thought he wouldn't change the most. Breaking up his work day and his business was the thing that kept him so preoccupied for so long. So it piqued her interest, and she said, "What is this thing you're doing?"
It's mystery.
Yeah, it is. Why are you doing it? Oh, well, I've realized I need to work on myself. And she's like, well, how's it going? And they started to talk, and then the doors opened, and then she's like, well, how about you move back in? So it's so true, breaking that routine.
Well, the key here is for him is to keep that mystery, right? When you were first dating, there was tons of mystery. She was trying to figure you out. She was trying to do this. And then all of a sudden she figured you out. And it was like watching the same movie over and over again, guys. It's boring. I don't care if it's what movie it is. It could be Terminator or Conan the Barbarian, one of the classic guy movies. But after the 100th time, you're like, I don't want to see this. Got to have some mystery and intrigue there. And so, other ways you can put yourself first, and I know we're going to wrap up here in a second due to time, because there's so many things I want to share with the guys, Tim. But other ways you can put yourself first is simply by giving yourself permission. Give yourself permission to be you, whatever that looks like. If you're sarcastic and funny, be sarcastic and funny. Be that guy, right? Don't be a jerk about it, but be that guy. And your wife or people around you may not like it. Well, too bad. That's you, right? If you're intelligent and people around you don't like it because you make them feel less than, who cares? Be you. Give yourself permission to be you, right? If you want to go out and have fun with the guys, make it a priority. You got one shot at this game we call life, man. One shot that we know for sure, regardless of your religious beliefs. You know you got one of these. So you got to play full out. Stop living a dead, hollow life. Reset, reclaim. And you can do this without being a jerk or without pissing your wife off, simply by doing it for you out of love for yourself.
There's a final thing I've just thought of what we give the guys. The fuck yes or hell no. It's kind of like your desire list, right? A lot of the guys, when they've wound up in this position of resentment and sacrifice and disconnect, they've started to say yes to so many things that are really a no to them. Whether it's yes to a certain meeting at work that they don't really need to be in, whether it's yes to a project that they're going to do that they don't really, it doesn't set them on fire. It could be yes to hiring someone out of necessity versus someone who's an A-team player. It could be yes to watching a TV show that they don't want to watch, yes to eating a food they don't want to eat, whatever, right? And then before they know it, their life is full of all these people, places, projects, objects. It doesn't light them up, right? So one thing that you can do as well is start getting back to what is an absolute fuck yes or hell no for you, right? And what's a fuck yes is going to feel light and exciting. You're going to smile when you think about it. You're going to be inspired to do it, like your morning routine or going for a run and lifting heavy like Doug likes to do. And whatever isn't that, it's got to be a hell no. Train that muscle to allow yourself to not have any justification of why it's okay for you to say yes to this thing. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's just this tiny thing. I'm going to do it anyway. It matters. It matters. The more that you allow those tiny little things, and it's like having a leak in your bucket, right? It's like you've got this massive bucket, you're pouring lots of water and you turn up the pressure, want it to fill and overspill, but you've got lots of leaks in it. So no matter how hard you turn up the pressure, the water just leaks out. That's kind of what it's like if you allow yourself to say yes to these things that are really a no. So it'd be a great starting place, in fact, for you to get clear on what it is currently for you. What's a fuck yes and a hell no? And then from there, build on the desire list, like Doug was saying. And then you can start to explain why it's important for you to do these certain things. And like Doug said too, I think it's important just to reiterate, this isn't about going from one extreme to the other and all of a sudden just taking control of your life and never doing anything for your wife and putting your needs first out of reaction, because that's not going to get you the love and the admiration, the closeness that you desire. Because you can have that and have your needs met and your wife have her needs met too.
Well said. Well said. Well, gentlemen, that's a wrap for us now. There's so much more to go over. Of course, you want to learn more about what we do and how to apply this type of information to your life. Go over to thealphareset.com. That is thealphareset.com. Until then, gentlemen, remember, put your needs first. You don't need to piss your wife off, but either way, put your needs first. We'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.